All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to Unslaved. Today we are doing part 3 of the Dead Sea Scrolls Deception series. It's a series I've been really interested in. Been having a great time picking up some amazing bits that I'd never even heard of myself. Getting some great emails from all of you listening that you're really a lot of people are really enjoying this and getting a lot out of it. There's been some new discoveries in this subject, and it's always good to revisit. And so here we are with part 3, Dying for Armageddon. So can't wait to dive into it, Michael. This will be a good one.
Oh, yeah. It's carry on, of course, from what we've been doing. But we said earlier that we wanted to do a program that maybe brought out a couple of their more beliefs, which the Dead Sea Scrolls is fundamental to that, because you couldn't really know their beliefs by reading the normal scriptures. The fiasco of the Council of Nicaea, it was hilarious. Constantine had ordered every, what they call at that time, presbyter. We would know them as priests, but the presbyters were told to, it was almost like Uber cabs, grab a donkey from a mate or a horse, and even force villagers to supply these carts and horses, and get your ass to this place in the wilderness, this Nicaea, right? And they had to come in their hundreds, and they were told to bring with them every text, script, document that they had been basically schlepping about. None of these were organized. They were a frightful mess. But they were to bring them all to Nicaea, for collation. And then this hullabaloo, of course, the sanitization through the years has been done to all these ludicrous councils. And when Constantine got into arguments with these presbyters about which documents should be in and which ones should be out, if anyone disagreed with him, he told the soldiers to grab them by the scruff of the neck, take them out in the courtyard and butcher them. So nothing personal, just business. And then he would decide what, he would then decide which of these scripts were, I like that one, let's put it in. So as the early Bibles show, and as all the true scholars know, I'm not making this up, it was a mess. But unfortunately, you see, it was a mess because it didn't really give us an insight into what Jews were like, or these early Christians. With the help of the Nag Hammadi scripts, these are Gnostic Gospels coming out, we got a peek, a little bit more insight into some of these people and their crazy ideas. And with the Dead Sea Scrolls, this was also a little bit more looking under the hood. But the trouble is, it's in the hands of this fifth sect. Well, as we said, first of all, texts were sold off in some crazy Indiana Jones style underground black market craze. People out there spending 6 digits to purchase postage stamp sized excerpts from the book of Joshua, or all of this, thinking, we've stumbled on an amazing thing. And this, as you said, this goes on even to this day. And also must mention the problem of forgery became almost instantaneously a problem. There was I think it was a Norwegian collector, spent 6 digits on buying scrolls and things, and found out many years later, in fact, found out recently that they were all forged. Unbelievably. Paleographers came in and looked at the lettering, the old Hebrew, the old Aramaic. So the thing is rife. Multi-millionaires who with a background in collecting have been fooled. What they have is, later concoctions like the Hitler diaries. 64 diaries written by the Führer. In ballpoint ink. Okay. We'll fall for that, I mean, just unbelievable. But this happened. And so many documents were lost. But as I say, the Nag Hammadi, when they make these finds, and these are not the only ones, there's other ones coming out from the Vatican archives all the time. These pieces are incendiary because they're actually showing us what it was really like. And we just want to do a little sample of that today. I've been collating information on that for years, and it's on the Astrotheology Zone site for people who want to go even deeper. But we'll do a little excerpt of it today, I thought, so that we don't rely on the Bible. even the Old Testament. No, because that's all myth mongering. That's Gerald Massey's great term, right? We would say myth making, the same fucking thing. Same thing, right? With the embellishment and the attempt to copy what the Babylonians had done, or the Egyptians with these huge gods. I mean, look at the Nile. Can you imagine going to the Nile and seeing these gigantic 20-story high statues of their gods, Ramses and what have you, right? That's impressive. See, so Jews and other groups wanted to do something as magnificent. I don't blame them. I really don't. Yeah. So suddenly they go, we've got these we've got these kings, if you want to call them that, or we've got these patriarchs. When we, go to writing about them, or even in the oral tradition, the writing comes way late. The oral tradition being there. Don't we build things up? Isn't it the big fish story or whatever that phrase is? The thing becomes a leviathan, and it was originally a little sprat. So this is exactly what happened. This is the leviathan concept, in which these patriarchs and kings, and then were blown up to enormous proportion. And then when you go looking for archaeological evidence, you can't find bugger all, and all of this. And if you then step forth and go, oh well, have you ever heard of Commons Beaumont? What? Right? You get shouted down when it's these guys who have none of the evidence for what they believe. So the Dead Sea Scrolls is very helpful there. And again, if you go by, he walked on the water, what else we got? Oh, feeding, 5,000 people. Now, with fish and 2 loaves. Now, it turns out that the Dead Sea Scrolls helped discover, I don't know if it was Professor Eisenman or one of the others, that they found out that the Dead Sea Scrolls helped understand that when these, I think it was the Essenes or whoever, the Jewish armies, whenever they would organize themselves into an actual army, they divided themselves into groups of 5,000. So that meant that Yeshua or Joshua, right? We can't decide who, because this is a Siamese twins here. One's compassionate, render under Caesar, but then won't render under the high priest. Schizophrenic, right? We'll tell people to abide by the law, and then eats grain on the Sunday or whatever, breaks the law, and on through the text. You're just like, who is this guy? What's he all about? Well, the point being that he must have been a military leader, because the 5,000 anecdote, when a deep dive is done, you find out that was a gathering of soldiers. You see. Yeah, they found this out through works like the Dead Sea Scrolls that gave information that then later, made more sense. This was a gathering of an army, and that connected to the Essenes, the fourth sect, the Nazarenes, who were mustering, with their Yeshua, with their Jesus figure. Their teacher of righteousness is probably the best way to look at it, and he himself is purely messianic. He is purely there to bring a sword. So the meek and mild, turn the other cheek, Jesus, and I bring a sword, Jesus, teacher of righteousness. Again, which one is which, you see? So this is not a good way. Think of the Mount of Olives idea when the Roman soldiers come to arrest Jesus. That one jumps to mind. Yeah, so a fucking gang of Roman soldiers appear. And they're so unprofessional that they let one of the disciples that's with Jesus lunge at them with a knife. These are guys who are expressly in the country to suppress the zealots and the Sicarii. But let a knife-wielding Peter lunge at one of these brawny, highly trained soldiers and cut into his ear, gouge out his ear. Let me tell you something right fucking now. That did not happen. If you had a lunge, first of all, I don't even know you could hit his ear because of their helmets. But even if you did try to stab and you succeeded in stabbing a Roman soldier, there'd be 4 headless corpses on the ground in front of you. No arrests need take place. Pilate, the procurator, goes, yeah, slaughter the fuckers immediately. No. But what? Wait. Yeshua steps forth and goes, peace, and heals, right, meant to cure and miraculously heal. if a miracle had been done, don't you think all those Roman soldiers, it would have gone around like wildfire, and it would have reached Pilate, and the whole fucking community would have heard about it. And if Jesus could do such a trivial fix there, why didn't he save himself from the cross? Why didn't he do a few more miracles and save himself from all the hassle? 5 minutes later, when he's brought in front of Pilate, the thing doesn't make one bit of sense. If I'm going to heal the ear of a Roman soldier, why don't I repeat something quite similar? And everybody backs off and goes, yeah, you're a magician, or this is amazing. So we can't follow, we can't know from the Bible, which has been what people have thought for years. So the dead, have been trained to believe. So the good thing about something like the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we'll see in a minute, you can judge for yourselves how, this is verifiable. It takes the lid off and it makes us see other perspectives so that we can then correctly judge, what we think of these people. If we go to the first slide.
Oh yeah, sure. Let's bring it up.
You can't rely on the Bible. So the War Scroll was one of the most important documents found. Can you read that, David, please?
Sure, yeah. The War Scroll. In the war against the Kittim, each side will fight alongside angelic hosts and supernatural beings, and final victory is achieved for the sons of light directly by the hand of God.
Yeah. The Kittim are the Romans, the Gentiles, the Greeks, and any kind of Jew from the cosmopolitan areas that supported them. And we already said that the Sadducees and the Pharisees and many of these other people did. We're talking here about a breakaway sect. So the Kittim was a word that showed that there was immense infighting amongst Jews that we didn't know about. And earlier, I think it was in the introduction of our series here, that we mentioned that without enemies, there would be no Judaism. I mean, this is really a heavy piece of information, because think of the anti-Semites again. You may rail against the Jews and despise, their existence or whatever, irrationally. Look, mate, if it wasn't for Gentile invaders, there wouldn't be any Judaism. Your dream would come true that had your own people not invaded their lands. They gang together. This is a fact that's not known. Greeks, Alexander the Great, 333 BC, whatever it was, and then the Romans coming in, and other groups, the Babylonians. You see? So what does that make of anti-Semitism? It shoots a cannonball through it, leaves it in ruins. The Gentile is responsible for the existence of Judaism, which was falling apart on several occasions in ancient history. Falling apart, even with the cosmopolitanism of Alexandria. The Jews themselves were ready to disperse and become completely Hellenized. And then in an earlier program, a very important one, I think it's called the No Jewish Conspiracy program we did, or it might have been Princess of Light. I spoke about how the fact that many of them had rejected Yahweh in their many hundreds of thousands all over the world. It's what led to a cultural Jew who, by focusing on the world and worldly success, this planet, became the Jew you know today. Super successful, wealthy. I went into all of that and explained what that's all about and how it happened. Right. So now let's back engineer that, and you find out this was one instance in which Jews were on a knife's edge in terms of their identity. That needs to be deeply contemplated. They would have dispersed. The 10 tribes of Israel had dispersed during much earlier in the 8th century BC, because what I'm saying is provable by this. Every word I'm saying is true. In the 8th